Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Adult Child of Dysfunction. Today we have with us Dr. Greg Linkowski. He's a retired diagnostic radiologist. He's been married to his lovely wife for more than 40 years, has three kids, as well as four beautiful grandchildren, which I'm sure we will hear about. And in his free time, he enjoys exercising, playing the accordion, and spending time with his grandchildren. He is also a trauma survivor and wishes to share his plethora of life's lessons overcoming adversity and talk about his recently released autobiography titled Dare to Thrive Lessons Learned from a Trauma Survivor. Welcome, Dr. Greg. How are you?
I am fine. And Tammy, I just want to thank you so very much for having me on your podcast. I feel like we're almost kindred spirits in so many ways. Uh, yeah, I mean it's interesting.
Yeah, well, I listened to one of your episodes, and that's one of the reasons I was actually excited. I listened to it not too long before this. I actually got off one podcast, got on another, but I'm like, well, let me hear about this Dr. Greg. And you started talking about your parents and the alcoholism, and I was like, wow, we actually could have quite a few different conversations. And then you also talked about really the basis of why your book became about, and that was with the experience that you had with your son. So, talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to just jump right in. If you've ever listened to my podcast, the people out there listening know I'm a no nuts and bolts fluff kind of person. I just go right for it.
Yeah, there's a medical term, go for the jugular, and but anyway, that's I have a lot of medical humor. Um, yeah, the real the underlying main reason why I chose to write my life story was, and actually this this journey began with me writing approximately 30 years ago. I would say the greatest experience in life that I have had has been the journey of being parents along with my wife Lynn. And amazingly, God has kept us together, and we just celebrated our 42nd anniversary two
Congrats.
days ago. I am very grateful to have had the journey that we are on. And there's so many things to talk about, but we were blessed after we got married in 83, and we had our first child, a daughter who's now 35, and that precious girl has four lovely children who my wife Lynn and I are madly in love with. Um, and what a tremendous blessing. Our second child, his name, which I can put out there on the podcast, his name was and still is David. He was born in the beginning of 1993. We initially thought that he was a normal, healthy child, only to find out about 3.5 months into the journey of being his parents that David, things weren't quite right. And it appeared as though David wasn't making eye contact with us. Um, so we brought him to the pediatrician, and basically for just to calm our nerves. And we watched Tammy, and as the expression on the pediatrician's face changed from his usual confident self to a look of real concern, that he basically told us, he said, your son David has developmental delay. That started us off on a journey of meeting a um, pediatric neurologist. David had a basically a stat CAT scan of his head and also had to be worked up by a metabolic geneticist. And it turns out that our son had a terrible seizure disorder, which basically manifested itself at about 5 months of age. I'll tell you what, it really is painful to talk about what we as a family went through. But I have to tell you that God was totally with us on the journey. And it was, let's just say we had a long tour through the valley of hell in many ways with our son. And by virtue of having David, it gave us a, a much better appreciation for life and for the journey that God was having us on. And so, anyway, where am I going with this?
Just basically just explain what happened and kind of how you pulled through that and what you went through and what your wife went through and how maybe some of your past traumas played into your reaction to that or you needing more faith or any of that.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you that one thing that Lynn and I got from our parents is we both grew up in New York and we don't give up. Giving up is not in either of our vocabulary, and and our whole lives have been basically done that way. Um, and we were struggling. I mean, for the first year or two of David's life, I mean, actually, for the first couple of years, we were really struggling. We were at a large church, which we would bring David to along with our daughter. And the pastor of the large church was so wonderful to us. Like, even after the service, he would pray with us that God would minister to us. And basically, we were praying for a miracle.
Right,
We
of
were
course.
praying for a basically a creative miracle. Well, time went on, and as it turns out, we discovered we weren't a match for being in a large church. So it turns out that my wife Lynn found out about this small inner city church in downtown Fresno where there was a basically it's called the downtown church, mostly more blue collar families, some Black, Hispanic, and an occasional Caucasian folks. I went to that particular church. Well, we went there and we were welcomed with open arms. Turns out the pastor, Pastor Doug, became our friends. In fact, he wrote the foreword to my autobiography entitled Dare to Thrive: Lessons Learned from a Trauma Survivor. He has been on the journey with us for the last 30 years.
It is good to have a friend like that. I mean, that's the most important thing is community, friendship, somebody. I mean, for the people out there listening, just grab that one person. If you're struggling, it sometimes only takes one person. So I'm glad you found him. That's awesome.
I'll tell you, I mean, that really has been a game changer. And if I have anything to add to people who are going through a lot of a lot of challenges. I mean, there are so many challenges out there. I mean, be it, it members of family, your own health, family, uh, families. I, I don't know.
Well, tell us how, I mean, you've been through a lot. Like I said, our paths are very parallel and just some of the things I listened to with the trauma for like a child. And tell us some of the things that you did to, we know you have your faith. What else did you do? Did you go to therapy? Did you, tell us,
Oh
walk through
yeah,
some of that and how did,
yeah. Uh, yeah, I'm definitely a fan of getting the help that one might need in order to grow. Now, the family that I come from, rather chaotic. I I grew up in the 50s and early 60s, uh, just outside of New York City in a town called Yonkers. Turns out my dad was a World War II veteran. He was in the Navy. He was also at D-Day and had, I am sure, a terrible case of untreated PTSD.
as most of the military, the Vietnam, the World War II, a lot of people had that, my father including, which leads them to drink.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so dad dad's journey with alcohol started when I was a child. I don't remember exactly what age, but I do know as I got probably around the ages of 9 or 10 that dad his drinking steadily increased. And I'm virtually certain he was trying to just deal with life, get by, and numb some of the pain that he was experiencing. Well, anyway, unfortunately, a lot of that got translated into parenting that wasn't the kind of parenting that I wound up doing, but we were, in a sense, victims, as were my mom and dad. And my mom actually was the oldest of 9 children, grew up in central Yonkers in a small row house. Square footage less than 1,100 feet. And so they had kids piled on top of kids,
I was going to say stacks of kids, stacks and
stacks,
stacks of
stacks of
kids.
kids. And on top of that, mom was essentially ordained to be a little mommy at a very young age. So she effectively almost skipped childhood, which is not the best not the best kind of training as far as becoming a parent. But anyway, one particular episode happened which has remained with me, and despite decades of therapy, which I have done in order for me to become a better person, a better husband, and also a really good father. But one day when I was probably about 13 or 14, it was a Saturday morning, which I'll never forget. Dad had been drinking heavily that morning. Um, Mom and Dad had been fighting. I mean, really, like yelling at each other, and it was just very upsetting. Well, Dad had a loaded 45 caliber semi-automatic pistol, which he shot into the floor of the kitchen, and basically said, "I'm going upstairs to kill myself."
Mm.
We were frozen in terror. Amazingly, Dad walked past us to go up the stairs to the upstairs bedroom where he was going to kill himself. And we, as a group, charged at him, and we were able to subdue him. And I wrestled the loaded 45 caliber gun out of his right hand. So it was a really close call. And I'm so grateful that we were able to help spare Dad's life. Um, that
So what did
episode,
you, so I'm going to ask you, I'm going to kind of interrupt here, but what
yeah,
did you do to get past that? What kind of, what did you do to heal from that? I mean, you had siblings and that was that was huge. So
yeah,
what kind of
nothing.
steps did you take?
uh, for a time, it was just essentially swept under the rug.
Which we know is what is the most disempowering thing you can absolutely ever have happen to you as a child. So as
Right.
far and that's the cycle though. That's what happens. That bad things happen, you get it stuck away. I do a lot of work with people that, talking. You ever read the book The Body Keeps Score?
No, but I'm going to write that down
Write that down. That is
because I've lived
a,
it.
yeah, well, and it's funny because it is so true because all of those things that, write it down. It will help you understand so much and make so much stuff and so much science behind that one event really literally changed the trajectory of your whole life, whether you knew it or not. I mean, whether you
Oh,
know it now or not, but it did.
oh, it
So it's
did.
like, yeah, absolutely. So, I try to like do you journal? What do you do to what have you done now that you're, how old are you? Well,
I'm
obviously you
se
have
I'm
four,
70 I'm
four,
71, and I
right.
and yeah, I'm in my last and best quarter. But I will tell you, okay, now this is and this would make total sense to you. While I did not know it, I loved to read. I still do love to read, but as a teenager, I happened to see this book entitled "The Making of a Psychiatrist" by a fellow named David Viscott. Well, I got that book, I read it, and I said, geez, that's what I want to become. But I didn't know the why. I just knew I wanted to become a psychiatrist. And so I was blessed with having at least a modicum of intelligence. I excelled in school, and amazingly got accepted into medical school. Thank you, God. By the way, I wasn't early acceptance. I got accepted in the summer about a couple of months before classes began. So I knew I was like, I was an alternate, but I eventually you know, got to begin to fulfill my dream. Um, I was dead set on that until the third year of medical school, when typically the medical students go on different clinical clerkships. And so I was assigned to my psychiatry rotation, and I was in a facility which was a locked mental health ward. one weekend while we weren't there, but this event happened that a patient on the locked ward successfully committed suicide on the ward. And I came in the following Monday, discovered that, and just like a light bulb went off in my head, I had maybe an epiphany, but it was like, there's no way I could become a psychiatrist.
Well, because you were 100% triggered from what happened that you never dealt with as a child. The suicide
Absolutely.
attempt of your, I mean, 100%. So, like, there's no like, oh, I wonder if I can do this. I wonder if I can't. You would have torn yourself up and ended up in a very, very bad situation had you decided to try even before you dealt with that. Now, there are people that I know, like you unfortunately lost your son. There are people I know that have lost children that are grief counselors or grief, therapists,
Right.
but they went through a lot of work to get there
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
so I'm going to jump back and put you back a little on the spot and talk about what you do, like talk about getting to the point where you are actually doing what you're doing, speaking about being a trauma survivor. Like what did what message do you have to give us? I want a message from you.
Okay. The message is, well, Winston Churchill. Okay. And this is one person who I wish I could have met uh, in real life, but he has the amazing quote, which I'm paraphrasing, but never, never, never give up. That was instilled inside me. How and why I'm not certain, but I do know that I have the instinct of survival in my core. Now, did I have a lot of baggage? Oh, yeah. And how did I add effects using hand gestures? Well, anyway, I'm just look at the little thing on there. Uh, Even in medical school, I wound up having a short course of doing my own psychotherapy with a psychiatrist who helped me just to begin to unravel some of the heavy burden that I was carrying. Um, Anyways, and so further later on in medical school, I had gone through the different rotations of medicine, pediatrics, OBGYN, surgery, and one by one, I like realized this is not me. I'm not cut out for them. So I was almost to the point where like, what am I even doing in becoming a doctor? And then one day I found diagnostic radiology, and it was like a download from God that, hey, Greg, you loved anatomy, you loved pathology. I mean, I'm one of those kind of weird individuals who likes science and who just happen to have the aptitude for being able to discern what's in images. And so it was like a perfect fit.
You found your purpose.
I
Hmm.
found my purpose. And I'll tell you what, Tammy, I never once questioned it. I just knew that I knew that I knew that that was what I was meant to do. And so anyway, so having this kind of charmed life for the time in the 80s, I went through my residency, really enjoyed it, did additional training in San Francisco, and then Lynn and I, we moved to Fresno, where I was recruited to for a position at a very, very busy community hospital, and thought, oh, this is going to be it. We're going to live happily ever after. Uh, and after we moved, shortly afterwards, I realized things are not right inside me. Here I am. I mean, I'm a physician. I'm married. I My wife and I are talking about having children. Can I really do this? So anyway, I listened to my inner voice, which said, Greg, you really could use some help.
I was going to say, I was waiting for you to say your inner voice said, of course, you got this. But I was like, not with what you went through. Your inner voice would have never said that. Your inner voice would have said, I am lost and I am
Oh
scared.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say, I was waiting to see where you were going with that because I'm like, nah.
yeah.
Okay.
Listen, I I was in over my head.
Hmm.
The expectations from work were beyond what I was able to do. And I was also struggling as a husband. And both of us come from challenged families. And I, I won't talk about what I believe to be true from Lynn's family, but suffice it to say that God saw fit to put us both together. And we're very different personalities, but we complement one another.
Well, I was going to say, and if you had even close to the somewhat of the same upbringing, your brain is going to be attracted to that type of person anyway, because that's how the brain works. So your brain is wired for familiarity.
Right.
And I mean, it's just that's how the brain works. That's what we do is like that's what I help people do is rewire some of those like, oh, this is why I did that and understand why you do what you do. And that's 100% like it's 100% understandable why when people go, oh yeah, they end up together and they're like, oh, I had a kind of rough upbringing too. Interesting. And it's like, yeah, that's why that happened. It wasn't, it's the same thing with, that energy. Like you're going to attract. There's absolutely no way you cannot. Um, there's really not. So, but that's funny. Uh, but I'm gonna ask you a couple quick questions here
Yes,
because
ma'am.
I know time. I want to value people's time here. But if you could give a tip to people, and besides just never give up, you went through a lot. What would be did you, okay, let me ask you this first. Did you ever go to Al-Anon, ACA, any of
Yes.
those? You
Yes.
did.
And
Was
I
it
also, by the way, I do want to mention the generational curse of alcoholism or alcohol use disorder. Um, Unfortunately, I struggled most of my life with alcohol. And even though I come from a family where there is a lot of addictive tendencies, and I see that in our generational in our family line. I myself did have resorted to alcohol to numb, to chill, to relax over the years, not really realizing how harmful it was, or not wanting to realize how harmful it is. Probably about 5 years ago, I encountered a group that was formed by Annie Annie Grace, entitled. She's written a few books like This Naked Mind and The Path, and basically, I wound up doing some of their programs, which has dramatically helped me become almost completely alcohol free. Now I'm not,
Congratulations.
thank you. And
Well,
the last few years, believe me, the difference in who I am and who I present as who I present to the world is a better version of me. I mean,
right.
I'm showing up as Greg 2.0, and uh, so just that single life change is amazing.
But
And
not simple. So tell people how you made that choice.
I
That's
decided
not a simple, it's not a
I
simple thing.
I no longer liked my behavior, and also I got some family feedback
Hmm.
that was painful to hear, but it also helped me to clean up who I am.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the hardest part of growth is self-reflection. That is the absolute hardest part is learning where, nothing that happened to you is your fault. The trauma wasn't your fault. Losing your son wasn't your fault. Nothing, none of that was your fault. And it rewires the way your brain thinks, rewires the way you look at the world. But it's like at some point, it's like, it was it Benjamin Franklin that said, with awareness comes great responsibility. Right. So it's like once you are aware, okay, these are the things I'm doing, this is how I'm acting. Now it's like your responsibility. But I mean, I kudos to you because it's not a hard change to make, especially when you are doing it to numb and you're doing it to numb. That's what people do. That's,
Right.
and when you sometimes when you stop, it's not so much like I've had several people say the alcohol wasn't the problem, the alcohol was the answer. The
Right.
problem is the underlying stuff. So just the alcohol, cutting the alcohol out. I mean, alcohol is, I mean, it's ugly, and I think it has a very specific trait in that if you're a gambling addict, until you lose your house, you're really only affecting you. If you're but so many other addictions, if you're a workaholic, you're really, until you leave your family for 6 weeks to go to work, you're really only affecting you. When you have the alcohol thrown in, it is a mind altering, it changes the whole dynamics of the family. So you're always affecting everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's also very in our culture, it's accepted, it's also promoted in many ways. So in many ways, we've been sold a lie. Um, I do have to say that to me, my faith walk has been pivotal. I can't stress enough how reaching out to God and just believing that there is more than just our earthly existence
Mhm.
is so important that I prayed this morning that God would just give me the right words to be able to say. And you know, I'm just hoping and praying that even sensing my vulnerability and my authentic self, I hope is going to impact somebody out there in your audience in a positive fashion. But if you don't have a faith walk, I would strongly suggest that. And yes, I happen to be a practicing Christian. I'm not here to tell you that unless you become born again, you're going to hell in a handbasket. I mean, that decision is between you and God. And I'm not
and
here.
and the God of your understanding, because the God of your understanding, your God is your God, my God is my God, but somebody else may, it doesn't, like, it may be something else. It may be the universe, it may be the goddess, whatever it is. Like, I think you're trying to allude to the fact that you just need to surrender and know that it's bigger than you, and you need something that you can hold on to for that faith.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just the community, having a spiritually based uh, community with which to participate in is so important, as well as trusted mentors that you may be blessed to have in your life, trusted family and friends. Um,
So would you say, what would be your biggest tip? Because we're going to have to wrap this up here pretty soon. So
yep.
if you had to give
Okay.
one tip, what would it be? Your biggest, broadest picture of what you need to do to become a trauma survivor?
Okay.
Short, quick, like,
How about this? I'm going to read it verbatim.
okay.
Pain, pain is inevitable, but it doesn't define us.
Mm.
Through forgiveness, perseverance, and unwavering faith, we have the ability, along with God's help, to transform wounds into wisdom. And I am here to tell you that there is purpose in life, and that your life's, my life, all of our lives have meaning, and that you are worthy of being the person that God called you to be. I mean,
Amen.
I, I guess that's it in a nutshell.
I mean, that's the quickest, simplest, most direct and understandable way to express it. And I love that. I love that you ended with that. And I want to, that's because that is exactly right. You are worthy. We come out of this trauma with these beliefs that are just fed to us and ingrained in us by other people, and it's not the way it is. But the good news is with work and help and community and faith and all of those things, you can literally rewire anything that your brain has come to believe that is the truth that is not, and you can get back to the truth, which is the divine, beautiful, amazing, perfect creature you were born to be. So, oh my gosh, Greg, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. I really
I
appreciate you.
Yes, I appreciate you. And for everybody else out there listening, you heard it. You are worthy. You are way, way, way more than enough, just the way you are right here, right now. Guys, drop a comment below. Let us know what you think. And hopefully, we will see you back next week. Thank you.